making a no filters video for mostly myself. Maybe this will be shared one day with someone. I've been in touch with a lot of people today, which is like weird. I usually don't talk to anybody. Somehow my social life is picking up. But yeah, so a lot of crazy things in a very mundane life over the past several weeks, and I haven't talked anything much about the gates, but maybe I'll start with this. I've been thinking a lot. Well, there's been a lot of energy between this cross of planning and this cross of the Phoenix, and I don't really know who I'm talking to right now, but we will just keep talking. Yeah, so this is beautiful. This is a beautiful moment. This is a beautiful moment to share because my partner, my boyfriend, husband, whatever, being politically correct, talks to me the other day about the 10-year plan. You know, and a lot of people can't think about 10 years into the future. They can only think about the present. And this can kind of be a problem, right? Because there's a little tiny feather going by. He's talking to me about a 10-year plan. Okay, if you can just think about where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 10 years? You know, like, that's a good place to start. And this is the cross of planning this week. So, and I'll get to why that matters in a second, but okay, we're in the cross of planning this week, so it's really interesting because we're able to talk about a 10-year plan, and a lot of people can't really do that, I guess is what we were kind of saying. Like, a lot of people can't really think about the potential of what can really happen in 10 years, so they're kind of stuck in this eternal now, and that's not like a good thing, really, because you can't dream or envision or be in your body and kind of like notice how long life really is and how much can actually happen. Okay, so that's on one hand. But on the other hand, the era that we're actually moving into in the rave cosmology is the era of the sleeping phoenix. So this bird that dies and then comes back to life, kind of like a mystical tantric practice. So it's kind of funny because he said that to me and I could feel the contradiction within myself, which was like, yeah, like, have a 10-year plan, but like, we're actually moving towards the eternal now. Isn't that like terrifying and awesome at the same time? Because isn't that what we all want? So to actually, though, be alive in the eternal now, here's the paradox that you have to get. Because I went through this. I went through like the descent into the eternal now, which is kind of like, the thing you have to get is like, you have to individuate, because if you go into the descent of the eternal now, of like the child self, you're not really like empowered at all. And a lot of people live in that. They kind of like haven't grown out of teenagerhood or into adulthood. So when you look around, you see like, oh, you know, you're in the now, but you're not like evolving. So you're kind of like devolving almost, right? It's a mystery. But then, like, so you need to plan for your future, but then on the other hand, like, the eternal now, I think Jung talked about this, like, that's what we all want. We want to go back to mother and like here-ness and now-ness. Eternally, you know, forever surrounded by Gaia, surrounded by the mystery, or, you know, right? So here we are, like, that's the era that we're actually going to move into. And so see, that's like terrifying. But like could be really great if people are appropriately individuated and differentiated into their self. Yeah, I don't know if that's making sense. I'm sort of just like holding it, and a lot of us are holding it. A lot of people are noticing this, differentiation and importance of uniqueness, not just as like a new spiritual thing to try out, but like as an actual survival strategy for the future. Like, it's great. It's brilliant. It's actually like really what we need, because when this cross of planning falls, and this is like, it probably doesn't make sense to 99% of people, but when this, if you can, sometimes I actually think of it as like a tree literally tumbling over a tower. I'm into tarot, and I just actually drew this tower card earlier. Now oh, okay, that's what the tower card was about. When you see this tower actually tumbling over, then like something has to fall for something new to be born. And then I had the sun card. So, okay, now I'm seeing the sun card and what could come alive and be born, from the ashes of the tower. And I actually think the planning is going to become even more important, like the details and the planning, the refinement of it is, a lot of people say, oh, it's just going away completely, but I actually feel like the refinement of it, like those people who can really hold, my partner is one of these people, so I have to give him some recognition, some whatever, some satisfaction in this. He's very, very good at planning trips and things down to the detail. It's going to be so important because of this nowness, and there's a bee over my head, that might just consume, a lot of the population that hasn't really differentiated. So yeah, anyway, really really just curious about that, because there's something about being in the present moment, and also noticing you can't really be in the present moment. You can never really come back to the now. Okay, so that's cross of planning, cross of PHoENIX. So we were just in the cross of PHoENIX last week. So if you noticed, whatever energy you were experiencing last week, and now we're in the cross of planning. I'm nervous, definitely, about the cross of planning. I don't like it, but I do. Like I said, my partner, he has the gate of the family, and yeah, I appreciate people who get that. Whatever. Here's the next cool thing. Okay. The other thing about 10-year plans. Okay, I feel like be a little more serious about this one. Is that, and this is really coming from self-projected voice, not everyone, this might not work for everyone. And there's not like a million self-projected people out there. Maybe 1 million, maybe 100 of them actually use the science. But I'm struggling to speak right now because I'm feeling my root pressure, like I should be doing something else, but let's just stay here. The writing and the using the voice brings you in to a state where the plan, you don't need to have the 10-year plan. So for example, but you do need to put it down. So for example, I did not ever think I would live in France. Even now, I don't even particularly, I don't know why I live here. I know that there's some reason, but it wasn't in my plan. But I have these notebooks where I used to write completely stream of consciousness. And I wrote down, you're going to live in France. I was writing almost like as if I was writing from like a me that I didn't know. And maybe in human design, we would call this the self, the body, and the not self. So it was like some kind of exercise where it was like, write as if you were someone who was loving yourself. Like you'll see, and before you know it, you'll be saying "c'est la vie" or something. I think that was the line. And I was friends with this French guy who's in there now, but it didn't come from like my conscious mind. So when we were back at his house in Maryland last year, and I saw that, soon you'll be saying "c'est la vie." Okay. Oh my God, like it actually happened. So I don't know why, but anyway, exercises like that can really help just free up some kind of, I hope this is helpful. I feel like I'm just kind of talking about something that we already know, like manifestation or whatever. But I think for the self-projected, it's like usually doesn't come from ways that other people, it works for other people, you know, especially like people who are really good at planning. And this was like not like the easiest time in my life. Wow, the sunset is incredible right now. Okay. So when I say like, where am I going to be in 10 years? You know, it's not really, it's kind of like death. Like, let me back that up. Like death, people think it's a time. They want to know. Like they would go to an astrologer and say like, what time? No, it's a place. You're in time and space. Your body is in time and space. There's a place within the cosmos that you die, not a time. It's crazy, right? Because like Saturn is kind of what we think of as death. Because that was the end of the universe for people for a long time until they discovered Uranus in like 1700s, late 1800s, I can't remember. But anyway, it's a place. It's not a time. So if you think of it that way, and I'm not saying like, oh, it's like this city, or it's like a place, like you're sitting, that the body would disintegrate. That like just changes the focus a lot more. So if you can think of almost like a place that you'd want to be in 10 years and like the way that that place might feel, then it will arrive. So this week is really important in that way. Okay, the end. So 10 years ago, I lived in this city in China. Not even a city, like try not to talk too loud because I'm staying renting a room in a house, trying to be respectful to the host, but also have a moment to reflect on these things. So back up 10 years ago, I was living on this mountain. What am I saying? I was living not on a mountain. I was definitely not living in my environment. I was living in a school in China in a basement of a teacher's dorm. Pretty much the maximum away from my actual environment, which is mountains, than you could possibly get. So I was in my early 20s, so I didn't know any of this stuff. But I dreamed of like getting a different, it was like all I could think about some days. Like I need to live in a different place, like than this basement of this teacher's dorms. The first floor, it wasn't the basement, but it was like dark and it didn't have a window and it sucked basically. But it was fine for what I needed. You know, it wasn't whatever. But I would look to the second floor because they didn't have higher than like the third floor in this village. It was a village. It was not a city. In this village. And I would think about, oh my God, if I had a apartment on the third floor, that would be like the dream. And I never got it until like the last like month. I didn't move in, but my coworker moved in to the third floor. You could look out and you could see the grape fields and whatever. But anyway, there was this mountain that you could see from my village. My village was in like this dusty, crappy valley. Okay, it was like, it was not idyllic. It was not the idyllic village I thought like I had moved into when I looked at the marketing package for this teaching program. But whatever, it is another story. But from the village, you could see this mountain. And this mountain was just not an ordinary mountain, okay? This was one of like the 7 holy mountains of Tibetan. Yes, that's a Jodorowsky reference, but it was one of the 7 holy mountains. Doesn't matter. 7 holy mountains of Tibetan Buddhism. And like, I didn't know that moving in. It was just like this mountain that you would see, like, and the more I talk to people, learn from the villagers, okay, like this mountain's really important because all the Tibetan monks, they have to go and make a pilgrimage to this place. And it does not even have a beautiful name, okay? You think that these Tibetan mountains have like really esoteric names that have some kind of deep meaning? No. This mountain. Oh, hey. I'm gonna go swimming. I have to tell this story real quick before I forget it. This mountain had the dumbest name. It was called Chicken Foot. Chicken Foot Mountain. Chicken Foot Village. And yet it was one of the most sacred mountains in Tibetan Buddhism. So if somebody knows why it was called that, that would be great to tell me. To me, my memory of chicken feet in China is like something people eat as like potato chips. They'll just be like eating chicken feet. Most of the monasteries on this mountain were completely annihilated during the cultural revolution in the 60s. So that's to say, most of those mountains were annihilated. Most of those monasteries were annihilated. There was like 1,000 monasteries. Okay, I don't know if there was 1,000. I use a lot of hyperbole. There was a lot of monasteries today, like maybe 50 or something, like ridiculous. I mean, you walk up this mountain, you hear like monks chanting, you hear like nuns walking, like, there's like one Buddhist monastery, like a few 100 miles from here, where I am in France right now. And there's like, I mean, just tons. But they destroyed most of them. So, when you're in a place like that and you feel like the cultural loss, it's like, oh my gosh, So I guess it kind of ties back to this cross of the phoenix. I didn't really think of that in this way, but, to realize, like, while there was this richness, like, of still in that day of all of these, like, monasteries, there was still, like, a huge, tremendous loss. And in the culture, just in the record, in like the record of that culture. So why it happened, I'm not giving like a good or bad. For some people think that was a good thing for the country, some people think it was a bad thing. I think like millions of lives were lost, but modernity kind of destroyed the values of traditionalism, and now we're anyway, another story, but very tragic, put it that way. Very, very tragic, no matter how you look at it. So here I am now. There's this mountain. There's no monastery. I mean, there might be like some monks what's the other kind of Catholic monks? I'm talking about Buddhist and Catholic, very different, but there might be some Buddhist Catholic monks up there. I don't know. But it's pretty cool. Like, there's a sunset and these like wispy clouds and just sort of like, you know, things I never thought I would see again in that way 10 years ago. So I didn't have a 10-year plan. I was just like living in this village being like, I'm gonna be a teacher and I'm gonna like teach kids and be a good teacher and like yeah, that's like all I could really think about. And then like I'll move back to the US and I'll like keep being a teacher. And really wacky. So I think we're gonna go swimming. Are we gonna go swimming? It'd be kind of fun to just jump in though and like, you know, I might do it.
Okay.
Just,
yeah,
you know, release.
Definitely.
Some people are really into that, like ice bathing thing. So 10 years ago, yeah, I was just, I didn't have a 10-year plan, you know? Like if somebody would have said that to me, I just would have been like, you know, so right now, do I have a 10-year plan? Like, no, I don't know. I mean, I guess I have like hopes that like I'll be with my boyfriend and like that would be good, you know? Like the world, I think a lot of people don't even go into that. Like the world's so cataclysmic that we can hardly even, we won't notice that our 10-year plans are being like stolen from us unless we sort of plan them a little bit. I mean, plan them in a way that's like connected to our deeper values, not just like stupid stuff like, yeah, I guess I'll be a teacher. Like most of the people, and by the way, like I was someone in this program who was like way more like I don't know, barefoot yogi style than other people who were like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Harvard and like be a doctor, and they did those things and they're like probably still doing them. Yeah, so they did those things and like had plans, and I think that's what I mean, like do I have a 10-year plan to like have money and like a house, and like yeah, I hope like I still have those things, you know, and I'm not like farming potatoes somewhere. I plant right, like those things might just start to, or like we just don't notice it happening. Like that's almost kind of scarier than these like big cataclysmic things, but those are also going to happen. So how do we plan? Maybe coming back to that place where I was like, oh wow, there's this big like Tibetan mountain, and I was just sort of like shocked by it. And you know, maybe now that I'm talking about it, it's like this is like that Tibetan mountain. It's all one. It's not to steal anyone's lineage, but it literally is like all like one. Like the whole thing is like one big mountain. It's like one thing. It's not separate from the mountain there, you know. So, and the cloud is like the same cloud that's there. You know what I mean? Like that's just not like. Most people can't even connect to that, like that cloud is the same cloud as the cloud that's in that mountain. And then there'd be like burning garbage like floating, and I'd be like, oh yeah, and then go to my little basement room, and I didn't have anything to do but watch TV on my ThinkPad, on like these channels, that these weird websites, you know, that probably gave my computer a bunch of viruses or something. And now I'm in this like, I mean bougie by like, you know, the standards I was living in 10 years ago. But also like kind of hippie. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense. So 10-year plan. Make it 5, make it 3. And don't make it like stupid, like make it as like I'm gonna be looking at a Tibetan mountain in 10 years or something, and make that your plan. So this erotic sunset, look at that, it's just gorgeous. The dog barking and the Italian mama that I'm staying with, and yeah, here we are.